use this opportunity to welcome you to the last part of this topic on inflation. We are going to look at causes and effects of inflation. Let us start with the causes of inflation in Ghana. What are the various causes of inflation in Ghana? What makes prices of goods and services to persistently increase in Ghana? What are their causes? 1. Continuous increase in the prices of fuel. In Ghana here, whenever prices of fuel increases, then what happens? It affects virtually everything. Then the prices of what? All other things what? Increases. 2. Marked up inflation. Now we've already explained marked up inflation. So 3. Printing or issuing additional or new currencies to finance budget deficits. 4. Higher wage demands unrelated or accompanied to productivity. 5. Embezzlement, bribery, and corruption. 6. Incidents of tribal wars and chieftaincy disputes. So whenever there is tribal wars and chieftaincy dispute, what happens? Production stops. So what happens? It creates shortages, and the result is increase in pricing. Next point, continuous depreciation of the cedi. And the next point, unnecessary and unproductive spending. Okay, we shall divide this. Look at the various positive effects of inflation and negative effects. Let us start with the positive effects. Inflation has positive effects, but it has good things. Let's look at them. 1. Moderate inflation or mild inflation could serve as an engine for rapid economic growth, because the excess demand and favorable market conditions will stimulate investment and expansion in economic activities, and hence economic growth of the country. 2. Moderate inflation could increase government revenue. Government revenue, because the higher profits that businesses could accrue are also subject to taxation. You also realize that the increase in workers' wages will also increase government tax revenue, since the higher wages means what? Higher tax payment by workers. 3. Inflation benefits non-fixed income earners like ordinary shareholders and businessmen. Businessmen, because they can obtain more profit once the prices of goods and services they sell increase. That is what the businessmen. 3. Inflation could create employment avenues for people, because the higher profits and the benefits that businessmen gain will make them produce more, and to produce more they will need more hands, thereby increasing the level of employment. 5. Inflation could encourage borrowing, because debtors gained at the expense of what? Their lenders during inflation. This is because whatever the borrower repay back in monetary terms will have less purchasing power than the amount they borrowed. Let us look at the negative effects of inflation. 1. Inflation could lead to loss of confidence in the local currency, particularly when the inflation rate is too higher. In other words, people will no longer prefer keeping the domestic currency, but rather prefer keeping their wealth in commodity forms like land, building, animals, or sometimes convert their monies to foreign currencies like dollars, pounds, and euros that have stable value. 2. Inflation discourages lending because creditors lose anytime they lend their money to debtors. The reason is that the value of the money debtors will pay back to them will fall, so people will not be prepared to transact businesses on credit basis. When that happens, those individuals and firms who would like to borrow or undertake economic activities will not get access to such credit support. 3. With inflation, income is redistributed against fixed income earners. Fixed income earners like like preference shareholders, public servants, landlords, etc. This is because the real value of their income during inflation reduces or continues to erode. In other words, with the rising prices of goods and services, those who receive the fixed income will become poorer and poorer if nothing is done to raise their incomes. 4. Inflation discourages investment in the domestic economy, hence misallocation of resources. This is because people will prefer importing goods from outside at cheaper prices to sell than producing by themselves. Also, planning becomes difficult venture for the investors once there will be a sharp difference between the targets and actual values. Again, the higher prices of inputs results in higher production costs, leading to higher prices of goods. Furthermore, people will prefer to hold money against securities like bonds, treasury bills, shares, etc., rather than investing in productive sectors. 5. Inflation reduces standard of living of citizens because the people no longer lay hands on many goods and services they used to consume. This is because the higher prices of goods and services will increase the expenditure of people. The expenditure people will make, and this will reduce their purchasing power. 6. Inflation discourages or reduces private or domestic saving. This is because the continuous increase in prices will cause a fall in the value of the money saved in future, since they cannot acquire the same quantities of goods and services could have purchased before they made their savings. Also, people will spend most of their incomes on goods and services, resulting in little or no savings to be made at all. 7. Inflation causes balance of payment deficit. This is because prices of imported goods tend to be relatively cheaper in the home market than the domestic products, which continue to experiencing rising prices. If the inflation happens to be demand pull, it could force the government to import a lot of goods to supplement what is locally produced. On the other hand, export will be discouraged as domestic goods are expensive to be demanded. In effect, balance of payment deficit could occur since government import bills will increase while export revenue will fall. 8. Inflation could lead to industrial agitations and political unrest in a particular country, thereby undermining or retarding development of the country. 9. Inflation reduces the external value of a country's currency, particularly in countries that use flexible exchange rate system to determine the exchange rates of their currencies. So in most cases, there is an overvaluation of their currencies. For instance, the higher the demand for foreign goods from other countries by Ghanaian importers explains why today a Ghanaian has to give more cedis in order to get the same dollars, pounds, CFA, etc. this is the end of our topic, inflation. Till I come your way with another topic, I wish you all the best. Please ask all the questions that you have. Peace be upon you. Bye bye.